Hello, welcome to my Bermuda Triangle premium deck profile. So this is actually a bit of a strange one. I've actually had Bermuda cards for a very long time, but I never actually used them. A long time ago, I tried collecting Harmony SPs, just so I could make that school themed deck, but then over time, the collecting kind of just became very tedious for all kinds of reasons, some of which rant-worthy reasons, but there's another place for that anyway. So at some point I got demotivated from building this clan, and then at some point I kind of got a hold of a lot of Twinkle Melody cases for really cheap, and I was a bit interested in building prisms for premium, which I still haven't got around to doing, but because the cases were cheap and being flogged off, I decided to pick them up, and by accident I ended up with a whole bunch of cards that were very convenient towards building this deck. So then I had I found someone who was selling a rainbow signed Aneska, and that sort of started the kind of rabbit hole for me to actually go and collect Bermuda Triangle high rarity again. So I decided to build this for fun. This was never actually going to be used in a tournament. This isn't really this is more of a meme, but it does happen to be well, surprisingly quite toxic. So the thing that happened was I put together a deck so I can sort of use it, since I know it's relatively representative of what kind of decks currently exist right now that you have to work around. It was one of the only ones I had anyway. I decided to use this against my Regalia deck for playtesting. I was trying to fine tune, I was trying out all kinds of different things with my Regalia deck, just simulations, me playing against myself, and trying to kind of grind a lot of games in a short amount of time, because I had only been doing it for maybe the span of over a week maybe. So I did that, but there was like one card missing and I proxied it, but then there's another card I decided I wanted to add as well, and things were a bit complicated. So I was going to go play Regalia. I decided to change my deck list on the train on the way to Leeds, and when I tried that list during the same night, I think it was, it went quite well, but then I tested the night after that during the V Premium night after the tournament, and it was about 2 o'clock in the morning, and I lost hope because the deck was supposed to be designed to counter Steam Maidens, Premium Steam Maidens, and strangely enough, even though I seem to be dealing with Steam Maidens better in V Premium format, in Premium format I seem to have a much tougher time against Steam Maidens, which is really strange, and I think more of it's the Schlishma. Schlishma is just more dangerous, I think, than anything that V Premium currently has, but I know like at the moment the complaints are more heavy on the V Premium side, which is, it's kind of interesting because it's Genesis. I'm speaking from the perspective of a Genesis player, and as a Genesis player I'm not actually finding Steam Maidens like as insane in the V format. That just seems to be my own personal experience. I just feel like when I play against it, it's a bit high roll, or maybe not high roll, but like more like it just depends. If they open the maximum power cards, like just enough cards that can do stuff and build a lot of advantage, then it feels insanely hard, because they can potentially blow you out in one turn, and you might struggle to hit back at them, and then you just die down eventually. So it's among one of those decks that I think you have to sort of test against in Premium. And so the other issue I had was that they released a Blitz order and it was legal for Leeds, and there is one clan that definitely gets screwed over by the Blitz order, which is Oracle Think Tank. More specifically, guard restrict plays, where you rely on a single rear guard, because if your opponent just happens to have that one-off Blitz order in their hand, they can basically just take away and steal the turn that you would have won. So now it's kind of that. Now some people might say, oh well, that's good, isn't it? Because guard restricts aren't fair. But the thing is, a sort of counter argument to that is that the thing with Oracle Think Tank is that they deck out really easily, and actually these days their defense doesn't really last that long. They do burn out very quickly after a few turns. So that's just another thing as well to kind of be aware of. So if you are to just keep on crippling OTT's finisher power, then it will just go back to the days of G era before Ichikishima came out, where it would just kind of stall the game out until eventually decks out, which is kind of the common thing that a lot of people experienced. So it's very controversial, obviously. But I wanted to kind of sit back with Oracle Think Tank and just rethink my game plans more. And the Blitz order was so disruptive. So basically, I was in this situation, obviously with the Taro ban in Genesis as well. They already kind of ruined a lot of Genesis on top of that. So I wasn't really too sure what I wanted to do with both the clans in that event. And I did need more time. I was going to go play Battle Sisters because at least Momo First Stride, you can try and cheese out with it. It is quite effective, so I was going to go do that. I hadn't really played Battle Sisters in quite a few weeks. I was tempted to play Oracle Think Tank Witches as well, because Oracle Think Tank Witches is definitely the least affected between all the Oracle decks by the Blitz order. If you have multi-tax, then obviously the Blitz doesn't really matter as much. You can just think of it as just another grade 1 Perfect Guard anyway, which either way makes no difference against you. So that's just sort of like another thing that I was considering as well. But the reason I didn't want to play Oracle Think Tank Witches is because someone who's got a decent understanding would not ride up against Oracle Witches and probably grade 2 game you. Or you can also be dealing with ride down decks as well. Now, your best bet if you do have to ride up is to go to Scarlet Witch Coco. But to use Scarlet Witch Coco in a way that's more worth it, you have to ride Nini, or you have to just have Nini and put it into Soul with her effect. But sometimes that just doesn't happen. So it's a bit risky, and I wasn't too sure about playing that deck for that reason. So I was going to go play Battle Sisters for this reason. But since I brought my Bermuda deck anyway, because I was going to help with playtesting, and essentially just kind of using it to experience grind so that I can prepare for Premium on Sunday, I brought most of my cards. I did actually order a copy of Resius, which is the Lyrical Monasterio Grade 1, but it didn't arrive in time by the time I left the house. So I didn't have that with me for the deck. But when I was about to leave after playtesting, go into my room, basically shout out to Hal and EJ for helping playtest during the weekend. There was basically a case where basically Lily had a binder out, and I noticed like Lyrical Monasterio cards, and I asked her about one of the cards, and literally she had it, which is sort of like a strange kind of turn of fate. So I was literally just about to go up and get my Balsas deck and re-sleeve it. My Bermuda deck was actually already in fresh sleeves because I've had these, well, this was actually the sleeves that Dave Vecht, the famous Gear Chronicle player who's been topping it quite a bit recently. These are the sleeves that he used for Springfest V Premium, when basically Jack, who you may know as the Zero Wins Oracle Think Tank Witch player, that I lent the deck out to, and Dave Vecht, who I lent out the Prism deck to, that I built. Basically, I built both those decks during the morning, very early in the morning of that event, like 3 o'clock in the morning, and we just kind of like last minute joined V Premium. But Jack kind of recruited like last second. We had actually decided on the third team member until that morning. So those sleeves have sort of been fresh since then and hardly used, except of course the simulation games I've done. So I brought these in. I did sort of run out of new sleeves, so this is the best I had. I made sure to deck check it before the event. So yeah, this it's a bit of a complicated story. There's quite a lot that happened, and basically the other thing that happened as well, shout out to Andrew Hesford as well, is that he was talking to me as well before I went to play test with Hal and AJ as well, and basically we were talking about maybe doing a trade. That he had a Laura. It was base rarity. I was actually trying to collect the maximum rarity. I'm talking to someone right now about trying to get a rainbow rarity version. I'm not sure whether or not we'll end up doing the trade, but we'll see. So basically, I wanted to maybe get it provisionally for now, just to kind of have so the deck is playable. But I wasn't planning to actually play this the next day. He left it anyway with David Golan as well. Shout out to David. Just to like trade while he's away, because Andrew didn't come on Sunday, and I didn't actually ask. I don't think to leave it either. So it was really convenient. He decided on his own to leave it with David, and so what happened was the next morning. David was on the way. I was potentially going to end up maybe getting the card off him for that morning to use, but then Dave was running a bit late, so I asked around a few friends and things, and basically I met, also shout out to Grant as well, for sort of helping me there. But basically, Grant had the grade 4, so that I could use that. So once I got that grade 4, the deck list was basically finished. A deck list that I wanted to play, basically. And so I used that and just memed with it in the tournament. Basically, I had a buy card. So I used that buy card to sort of just practice and get a bit more comfortable with the deck, because it's really different to doing simulations. Like with simulations, you don't really do the best due diligence on the same card effects, I found out, because of what happened in V Premium, where basically in V Premium format, I discovered what Genovis' actual skill was, because I have somehow misunderstood what the errata was. So I've actually tried doing simulations with Ripples a little earlier on, before the Ripple ban as well. So I did have to then also just read my Bermuda cards a bit more carefully again, and just check some things over. Maybe like learn some names as well better, so I can describe better, so that they don't become ambiguous and potentially disputable with other cards. Because if you're not specific about the card, then obviously if there's a way they can misinterpret it to be another card, then there's a bit of an issue there. So it's just making sure there weren't any of those little traps. Sage, and he's basically the guy who won the premium event overall. Sage, and also Morgan, or they're Morgan, also known as a Notorioset online as well. Basically, we all sat together during the buy rounds, and basically helped me test the deck as well. So I got to try it out. It was insanely explosive, we found, and then when I went into the actual event itself and played it, I actually bricked quite a handful of games with it. So obviously, and I've spoken to other players about this, some people actually did warn me. Hal warned me about it. The thing is that if you don't get Q-Tire on maybe turn 3, or Raindear as well can whiff sometimes as well, then the deck kind of just starts to fall apart. So what happened was I had 3 games against Narukami, which also I got told is a bad matchup apparently. I went against Jay as the first Narukami player. He was, I think, my round 4 opponent. And Jay beat me. Jay is my teammate from... he basically teamed up with me for a lot of the Springfest events that we ended up topping through. And so that was one of my losses there. Then there was also a loss against another Narukami player. And then I went against Hope on Damp as well. I won against the third Narukami player, but I went also against Hope on Damp, No Life King. And I didn't manage to actually deal with that in the end. We went overtime. Basically, the final turn, I whiffed my Reindeer attack when I rode up, so I checked the top 10. I didn't find anything except for Chuchituro to ride, and Chuchituro just didn't really get anything to do any pressure, so my opponent could just no guard. So he did the obviously the No Life King Hope on Damp OTK combo. Now that I've ridden grade 3 and stayed on it, he had full facts as well. I think though overall, I think based on some advice I got as well from Morgan, it does seem like riding up was the better play, because we do have a defensive G guards that can scale and gain power. But I don't think I drew Reese's. No, I didn't actually manage to get Reese's, because I actually bricked my Q-Tire combo. I didn't get Q-Tire off. So that bricking obviously meant that I couldn't really set up the necessary defensive play against No Life King. And so when it got to Hope on Damp, I didn't really have that much for... I didn't really have a real defensive wall. And I then ate full facts, who then gave the crits, because there's only 1 card left in deck. The crits then, 3 crits put back to deck, draft check 2 crits. One of them was the leftover card in the deck, which is a grade 2. And the rear guards then killed me. So that didn't go too well in the end. I came very close to surviving that maximum power off turn. But I think, yeah, it's kind of interesting how if Rhesus was around, I think the deck would have survived that play, which it's a very difficult combo to survive actually. So then those were my 3 losses, and I was pretty much out. I had another game where I did Reindeer and I rode into a hill. I had another game where I discarded 2 for Reindeer and I basically rode nothing. So it's been really bad with that as well. It doesn't reflect the small amount of playtesting as well as simulations that I've done. But anyway, that's basically the long explanation of the tournament. And obviously I was kind of appealed into playing this deck because obviously I've got this SP collection lying around and it's just been sitting for years, and this was probably the right time for me to just finally use it, especially this Olivia SP. I've had this like more or less since the card came out almost. So one by one, I had one like just about around release time, then I collected them slowly. I had like another one quite shortly, another one after that, and then I got my 4th one eventually. But then I kind of neglected to collect the low grade cards, so I am quite stuck on cards like Speaker, for example, which I never managed to get a copy of. So to start with, the deck profile, I play one of the Bermuda Triangle Cadet Shizuku. I would specify this one, so a lot of times in my deck profiles I do joke about how the V-Star doesn't matter, except in Oracle Think Tank when you want to use Sai with Godhawk Ichibiyoshi, or is it Tsukiyomi grade 1 as well. The reason why this is important is because this name is relevant to a card I'm going to get to later on. Then I play First Lesson Akari. So First Lesson Akari is the original G-Era starter. This is basically a target you can add to your hand with Qtire, so you can spam and compress your deck as well. And it helps you just go through things better as well. It also has the Harmony keyword, so you can trigger it with Alk as well. Then we have 4 copies of Reindeer, so I accidentally pulled this from the 3 cases that I got. I actually managed to get 3 of this version of Reindeer, as well as Vert, which was also used in the Prism deck that Dave Vect borrowed. So 4 Reindeers. Then some of the random text we have, School of Twirl Olivia, just like this Olivia, but this is the one in the main deck. So this is free, which is really important because if your opponent happens to damage deny you, then at least you've got a few targets that don't require counterblast costs, which is why I like this card as well. And by the way, I did mention something about misreading, so I did try to learn my cards before the event a bit, and while testing with Sage and Morgan, someone among them, I think both of them maybe, they pointed out that Olivia can actually restand 1 or 2 cards, and I got it wrong. I modded up and thought that you have to have 3 cards with different names to stand them. So I basically tested it in a more nerfed state than it was supposed to be. The card is stronger than I thought. So this is why when you get to an actual event, it's probably good to just revise through it, because there's so many misconceptions you can have sometimes. Like you may read something 1 time and then, or 2 times or something, or maybe you just forget a wording later on. Or sometimes you just kind of like read through something, but you just kind of model something up in your head. It just can happen. So here we've got Heart Monopoly Aneska. So Heart Monopoly Aneska is more of a defensive card as well. She just makes you feel safe when you ride her. So also free as well, and that's the Rainbow Rare. Laura, so I actually played an SP copy that Grant lent me. This is the copy that I got from Andrew Hesford after the tournament. So I sorted the trade with him via Discord, and did it then. And this card is free, that's why I wanted to play it, because it doesn't have a counterblast cost. Also, 10k power can actually run people over. I actually used this in the last round. At this point, I was already out. I wasn't going to make it. I got very lucky, sort of, in my final round, because my hand was kind of bad at the start. I saw basically like one grade 1 or 2, I don't know, but there was 1 Pearl Sister. And then I drew into Radka, and then I used Radka to check top 2, and I found the other Pearl Sister, and then on turn 2 I just rushed my opponent with double crits. And then I survived the Raging Form turn, and then after that I did the Reindeer play, and I think it was Laura. Oh no, I think the game actually went on for quite a few turns, so I think the finisher was Laura. I believe. I think I called over all my cards. I hope I'm remembering it correctly, but I think that was the only time I actually used Laura in the entire tournament. As well. Then 1 copy for Lupina. Lupina is really good. There's actually 1 game I bricked. So one of the Narukami games that I lost. What happened was, actually it was against Jay, I think. So I didn't ride Reindeer in that game. I rode Lupina. I never saw Reindeer. And I had to sort of just rely on Lupina to get, well, I could only plus once because during my turn 4, basically I ran out of soul. So I couldn't really just sit on Lupina and use the skill again. So then I just went into Stride and it was very ineffective. And then I just died the turn after that. So she's decent, but she's got the counterblast cost. So generally you kind of like using Olivia more. But we've got a certain fix for cards like this, which I'll get to later. Then Ange, she's also Count plus 1. These grade 3s generally have Count plus 1, unlike the grade 4s. That's how they set them apart. But she's very handy in that she can just bounce stuff from field to hand. And because of that, you can basically search... well, you can set up more force markers, which is good. But then you can also search for something like Q-Tire. That way you can add PGs or Sandy, which is a G-Guard, pseudo G-Guardian to your hand. That's really helpful as well. And just a very nice security card to ride into as well. But you have to try and set up the field and make sure the board complements Ange, because you need to be able to bounce 4 cards. But she's much easier to fulfill than Perfect Performance Ange from the G era, the Stride. Then we've got one Chuchu debut stage Turo. So this is another tech. She's a restanding rearguard, so you can attack twice with her. And then we've got 2 copies of Q-Tire. So this is the card that you really need if you want the deck to be dangerous. And I didn't really see her much during the entire day, so I was in a bit of a bad pickle, or maybe just get her a bit too late as well. But 2 copies of Top Idol Aqua, you want to search this out as soon as you can. Sometimes you might even just open this and then it becomes easier, but the moment you get this, then you can just use Q-Tire's skill again and then you can press your deck further. Also good ride as well. Make sure to also call a normal unit a lot of times beforehand if you don't have any decent rides grade 2s, because you might just top deck an Aqua as well, so that's something to consider. Sometimes I don't really call a rearguard on grade 1. If, for example, I see like Clasina in hand, then I don't really bother doing it, because Clasina, she's got a Vanguard skill herself as well. And even if my opponent damage denies me, I'm still going to ride it. So she's good because she gives you so much dumb advantage just because you have it in hand. And then 1 copy of Shiratsu. So this is the fix for any counterblast denial that your opponent does. So Ange and Lupina, for example, they have counterblast costs. If you have a Shiratsuyu, you can basically just search her out with Q-Tire, as long as you draw Q-Tire, of course. Or you can just have her in your hand by chance. And then you can use this card to countercharge as well. And that way you can actually use a skill on 1 damage. Of course, if your opponent damage denies you and you go into Haltruda, then she also helps with that as well. So that's very helpful. Sistico, this actually helped me against one of my opponents, because I found out that all my harmonies were in drop zone, so I kind of messed up. I misplayed with Alk, and I managed to fix the misplay because then I realized that this card was still in my deck. And so I searched her out, and then I returned Aina back to the bottom of my deck. Then I used Q-Tire to get Aina out, and then I set up my harmony and fixed my plays. Then there was 1 copy of Seria. Seria is a good ride target as well, or you can call her and rush with it. 15k attacker or 20k for opponents on grade 3. This is very helpful for filter as well, and consistency to deck. 1 Attractor Glow Sandy. She's a normal unit, so you can search her out with Q-Tire. That way you can use her for G-Guarding as well, because you can't search your grade 3 heals. So this is this does a lot for the deck as well. 1 copy of Lisalet. So Lisalet is a 3+1 as well, and handy at times. 1 of each Pal Sister. So these just steal wins basically. They're really really toxic cards, and they sit on 28k base. So your opponent will struggle to hit them, which makes them a big pain to deal with. Your opponent will struggle to punish you for rushing, unlike most cards in the game where if you rush the opponent, a lot of the time the opponent can punish you for it and slow your plays down, but Pearl Sisters, not so much. Then we've got Betty. Betty is good because you can search out from the top 7, and you can also return cards from your hand to your deck, which is helpful too. Aina is actually really good with Alk, because you can then trigger Harmony to get 2 units with Harmony, and then with that you can then trigger off Alk's condition. 1 Recess, this is really important for building up a defense wall. You can also spam this because if you have multiple G-Guards, you could do something like Citron to call her out, and then you can do something like the new P-Clan Collection G-Guardian, which can basically bounce her back to hand. And if you have a 3rd G-Guard, or if you have Puma in your hand, you can then call her back out, and then you have 20k on your Vanguard, so you'll have like a 33k body. Then there's Finessa. She's actually quite useful because she can return cards back to deck, and she can also rush from front row draw. She's also good with Haltruda because she can give you a booster while making sure that your card economy doesn't suffer. So you can turn her into a draw and then use that draw as a discard cost for Haltruda and conserve your better defense pieces for the Haltruda cost. So I find her very useful. She doesn't make it so you're compromising on boosting pressure because she would convert into hand power for Haltruda. And then one copy of Pumo. Just bear in mind she's GB1, but basically she can call a card to an open rearguard. And then we've got Shizuku. Shizuku can get you 3+, which can generate you more hand, even discard fodder for Haltruda as well. Also has the Harmony keyword, which can help. Radika, she's really free for filtering. Also good on hit card. Very effective, because a lot of people are a bit scared of gambling cards on once passes. Especially if one trigger could lead to a massive net difference in hand advantage. So she's actually quite good if you ride her going second. But also she's a hard once per turn, but what does that matter when you're actually only playing one copy? So you can just turn her into like one of other 2 cards on top of your deck, which is really good. Then one Sedna, she can search for grade 3 like Kutai, for example, or Reindeer. One copy of Miracle Twin Tower Wiz. She's a Harmony PG and also searchable because she's a normal unit. So you want that for Kutai and also Aqua as well. She's quite interesting. If you have a few perfect cards in drop zone, you can basically protect your entire board. Also a normal unit as well, which I like. Then one over trigger because it's broken. One crook because crook can be handy, also triggers Harmony, but she can get you more attacks. 2 draw perfect guards because of space reasons we can't play too many normal units. And then we have 4 stride crits, obviously, most staple card in the trigger lineup. 4 of these Ardals. She can also turn into draws as well if you want to use something like, for example, Haltruda, and also give a Vanguard power. 4 heals. 4 heals, obviously, because it's useful. Also can be searched with Shizuku and Sedna as well. Now to the G zone, we have 2 of the Olivias. So this is the iconic card for me to be playing because I've sat on this for a long time and never used it. And many years later, here I am. I probably sat on this card, for 8 years or something now, and never got to use it in like any event or anything. It's just been sort of just stored away. I've actually got a few more copies of this as well. She's actually quite good though still. She's aged kind of well. So in the G series, they had subclans, and in those subclans they made cards that were sort of like better versions of Olivia. But then we went to V series, we started getting more generic cards again, which in my opinion made Olivia a better card again. And she's just safe because she's not as conditional as some of the other G units. So if you're losing badly, she's actually more of a viable option to consider going into, which is why I like this card. And then 2 copies of Alk. So this is a more conditional card. You have to make sure you got your Harmony set up to be able to use this. Be careful you don't misplay as well. But she can be quite explosive. 1 copy of Ange. So I realized that this card, I read it and I was like, wait, hold on, this can't be right. I could swear this wasn't the Persona flip. But basically, the original printing of this has a misprint in that it specifies that you have to flip the same name from a G zone, but it's actually you flip any G unit. I looked it up and that was incorrect. So even the reprint, I've got the reprint anyway from Revival Collection, and it says that as well. Like it says you flip any G unit. I've actually got 3 of this card, but obviously I didn't have space to play all these SP units that I have. I've even got 3 of this as well, which is Chuchitaro. So this card is just a free restand, and it's quite risky because you are losing cards, but if you see an opportunity to use it, I didn't use it at all during the day, but it's quite helpful. Megidome, this is funny because Reindear generates a lot of force markers, so if you happen to stack up a bunch of force markers, you can always just potentially ultimate stride and just do like loads of heavy multi-attacks. The deck does produce a lot of good rear guards. Even Pearl Sisters are there, so just remember that Pearl Sisters exist. Then 2 copies of Haltruda. So this is the really aggressive card as well, and you can sort of plus back a bit because of Kutai spam. Lapria, she's there for emergencies if you brick hard, like super hard. Then 2 copies of the new G-Guard, Lucreci, or however you pronounce it. She can give you a Vanguard 5k power if you bounce a grade 3, or if you bounce a grade 2 or less, she's a basically 30k shield, which can also be handy, so use these wisely. 2 copies of Citron. I do need the SP versions. I've actually got a few of the reprint one from Revival Selection coming at some point, but I want to try and get the original one. I used to have it, but they had this sort of program where, because it wasn't meant to be in the Loris SP pack years ago, they basically offered to trade in Citrons and give people Lorises. So Citron was originally overprinted. The thing is, for a long time, Loris was the more sorted and more expensive card, as opposed to Citron. But then over the years, because of, in very typical Vanguard fashion, grade 3s don't really age very well in this game. It's usually the G units that seem to actually age a bit better, just a little bit, especially the G Guardians, because they haven't really released that many G Guardians in the game. So Citron became more and more demanded, and then we started having people playing 2 to 3 copies in a lot of deck lists. And despite being overprinted in SP, in the end, it's just kind of drowned. So if anyone has any of the SP versions of this, let me know, because I'm looking for some. And then next we have Sandy. She's a GB1 flip G-Guard, which is handy to have in case you want to do Megiddo as well. But obviously just be aware, because you can't just guard however you want these days. You kind of need the hand traps to give 10k or 5k power to your Vanguard, so you can deal with multi-attacks a bit better. Then one Leon. I've actually got a second one of this, but I didn't have space to play it, so this is quite handy at times as well if you need to bounce something back to your hand. This is also just sort of like a substitute for Dismal. As you notice, I'm not playing Dismal on this list. That's what Leon is for as well. She's sort of like the compromise card. So that's more or less it with the deck profile. So yeah, in the end, it got 3 losses, and it didn't make it in top cart, but that's fine. This wasn't really meant to be my kind of main serious deck anyway. At this point, I just wasn't really sure what I was going to be doing for premium format anyway on the day. So I've got some new cards now, so I might maybe look towards making a deck around those, and maybe stay tuned for that deck profile, because it will probably come out in a few weeks. So until then, I will see you guys later, and goodbye.